Ben, my man, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited for the conversation.
Yeah, so why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're doing?
Ben Erwin, I'm CEO of Charitybuzz. We're the world's best destination to live out all of your wildest dreams while being able to support terrific charitable causes. We specialize in procuring and delivering experiences and access with the world's leading personalities, luminaries, events, destinations, you name it, all in support of great causes. It's truly a marketplace of money can't buy experiences that have only been put together because of our desire to support charitable organizations and raise more money to help drive and empower these organizations to solve their missions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was actually checking out your website yesterday. You got some really cool stuff available for people. I saw just a couple of things. You got like some signed Mike Tyson boxing gloves. You got a Walter Payton. I'm from Chicago, so you got a Walter Payton jersey signed by the '85 Super Bowl Bears, and that doesn't count the, like you were saying, all the travel experiences that you guys offer around the world, which just are stunning from the photographs on the website. So people could basically bid on this stuff, and best winner wins it, and then a percentage of the bid goes to charity.
Yeah, we have a few different sales channels, but the idea is charitable fundraising in the United States has been stagnant for the last 50 years. So they measure that by comparing the amount of charitable contributions annually as a percentage of GDP. And they
Mm,
began measuring that in the 70s, and it's never statistically deviated from about 2%.
mm,
And you know, tragically, we've seen over the last 2 years that charitable giving, when adjusted for inflation, has gone down year over year.
mm,
So we're seeing, despite a strong market, charitable donations going down, which there's never been a negative correlation between those two figures.
hmm.
So we're seeing this moment where charities need to figure out ways to get more funding into their organizations to be able to solve all of these complex problems that they face. So our plan is to look at other areas where spending and increased money is exchanging hands. And when you look at this sector of our GDP called non-essential activities, so that's travel, concerts, memorabilia, collectibles, just this huge chunk of, exactly as the name suggests, non essential activities. That's growing at a very fast pace, and it's
Mm.
projected to represent about a quarter of our GDP. So our point
Wow.
is, if I can compel you to give money to charity that you otherwise would not be giving through the offer of really awesome, cool experiences, collectibles, just the types of things that put a smile on your face and will drive urgency for you to take action because it's exclusive. You don't know if you're ever going to be able to find this thing again. Then I'm able to add a new layer of dollars going to charity on top of this number that's been stagnant. And that over time can help us increase the amount of money going to charities because at Charitybuzz, we believe that a world where more money goes to charity delivers better outcomes for everyone. I can't
Hmm.
quantify it. I can't describe it to you at a very micro level, but I think everybody could get behind. Yeah, if charities were better funded and could spend more time focusing on solving these problems, curing cancer, saving the environment, reforming education, feeding the homeless, you name it, then society as a whole would benefit. So we're
Hmm.
on a mission to help figure out a way to make that happen.
So what percentage of the proceeds from whatever you guys sell actually goes to charity?
Yeah,
Because
so
obviously
it
you have a
depends.
cost behind it.
Yeah, it depends. We're on a rev share model. So primarily when we're working directly with a charity who's sourcing the items and then leveraging our platform and our audience to maximize dollars raised, there's a 20% service fee. It's a managed service. So we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting and optimization around consulting with them to identify the types of opportunities that could work well on the site, building the pages, managing the marketing, settling the payments, fulfilling the actual auction packages. So we take quite a bit of work off of their plate to be able to deliver them 80% of a dollar that otherwise they wouldn't be receiving.
Hmm.
So it's really fundamental to us as a business to be creating incremental dollars. We don't want to take 80% of money that was already going to go to charity. We want to create this additional layer.
Sure.
So it's a situation where the amount of money they're raising increases, and we as a for-profit business are being compensated for it, and that's what helps us drive a lot of the innovation and growth that we've been seeing over the past 15 years.
So when people buy things from your site, your Charity Buzz isn't really dictating which charity those dollars are going to, right?
Nope. Every single item that you buy on the site or that you would find anywhere across our platforms has a predetermined charity connected to it. So you know exactly where the money's going, and you can rest assured that the money is getting to that organization very quickly, just based on the entire framework and structure we've developed to get the funds as quickly as possible to the end beneficiary.
So what are some of the charities that you guys do work for with?
Yeah, we've worked with thousands over time. I mean, so and it ranges from the most well-known organizations in our country, St. Jude,
Hmm.
Leukemia Lymphoma Society, City of Hope, to much smaller organizations that may be one or two volunteers that have $100,000 annual budget. So it really runs the gamut in terms of size and scope of organizations and cause sector. What's really important to us is an organization that fully invests in the idea of a partnership. This is a mutual relationship where both parties have to invest in order to be able to drive the desired outcomes. But we're able to really help organizations that either have these really universal causes, cancer, environment, everybody can support a cause like that, to organizations that maybe have a really esoteric cause. Maybe it's a rare disease and there's a very small number of people who would be incentivized to give directly to them, right? They would probably have to be impacted by the disease
Hmm.
personally or through a family member. But
Hmm.
through us, we allow them to increase the size of their potential donor pool
Hmm.
through access to our community of registered customers.
That's great. That's great. One one organization, or rather one sector that's near and dear to my heart, is veterans. I feel like they don't get enough support behind not only the government, but just there should be more charitable things going on for our veterans, because usually, like, if I'm donating, I'll donate to Salvation Army or something like that, because from what I've read is that that organization has the highest per dollar um, percentage going actually to uh, the veterans, or the person in need, right? Compared to, like, I don't know, like Goodwill, right? I think Goodwill has one of the lowest per dollar units actually going towards charity. So, do you guys work with any veteran organizations or anything like that?
Yeah, tons of veteran organizations or health and human services. I think a really good example that's current today of the value, the inherent value that we're able to bring is we're doing a lot of work to support the long-term recovery efforts in Los Angeles after the fires.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, you see the same cycle happen after a natural disaster. The
Mm-hmm.
first week or two after the natural disaster hits, it's front page, every website, newspaper, and there's an incredible amount of direct relief going to the organizations on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment the media cycle moves on and that no
Mm-hmm.
longer becomes front page news, the donations and the support really dry up. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not like the work that's going to be required to rebuild almost an entire city that was
Mm-hmm.
decimated by these fires takes a week or two or 10, $20 million to fix. So what we've been able to do is create a lot of really exclusive and unique experiences vis-a-vis our partners throughout the Los Angeles community. And so now we're creating this additional layer after that immediate support comes in, where
Mm.
people want to go play golf with Larry David or attend the premiere of the new Jurassic World movie. And they're giving that money in exchange for getting this really awesome, unique access to support the families and the communities that are going to be spending the next 5, 10 years rebuilding. Those dollars would never make it to them if our business and our marketplace existed. And that's where we want to focus our efforts. It's where can we create this additional money that
Hmm.
otherwise wouldn't go there, because that's how we get that 2% of GDP to increase, and that's how we can get more funding to these organizations that are doing incredible work.
So when did Charity Buzz start?
It's about 15 years ago.
Oh wow, okay. So you guys been around the block a little bit.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
and
we've
so
raised almost over $500 million, so it's all
oh wow.
incremental. So it's real scale,
Hmm.
because there's just there's this really valuable niche we're in, and we were fortunate timing wise that we get to ride the wave of the experience economy. So
Hmm.
when we started the business, consumers were not yet at the point where they valued experiences over stuff. But now we're seeing seven, some people even say 8 out of 10 customers value an experience over a tangible object. And that's
Hmm.
what we've been specializing in. So we've created the expertise, really at the right time, again, coincidentally, to be able to take advantage of some of these external factors, that are really promoting the types of opportunities that we provide.
Do you guys leverage any like social influencers to help promote the platform or promote some of your guys' experiences?
Yeah, from time to time, we're working a little bit more in, I would say, the micro influencer space. I think is more a better fit for us, but we use all marketing channels. For retention, email and SMS are really effective for us. We do a lot on the organic social front. The content that we're able to create, either ourselves or through the types of people that we're working with, is really compelling, fun, and drives a lot of attention. We'll do a lot of paid social, paid search, display, and then earned media. We're fortunate that quite a bit of what we do is newsworthy, and people want to
Hmm.
write about famous people doing something really good and offering up a really unique experience. So whether it's covering, before the auction closes, that this opportunity exists, all the way through being able to cover the actual fulfillment of the experience. What's it like to go to the premiere of this movie or have lunch with this movie star? We can kind of create a pretty long tail around what we do to be able to continuously drive awareness towards the types of opportunities that we provide, which allows us to strengthen our community. Because I mentioned this briefly, but our biggest asset is we have hundreds of thousands of customers, the Charity
Hmm.
Buzz community,
Hmm.
and they're loyal to Charity Buzz. They come to Charity Buzz because they want to give back, but they want to do really cool and interesting stuff. And if they can unlock those cool and interesting opportunities and be able to support charity, it's a win-win for them. So now any organization that works with us gets access to this brand new community of affluent, socially conscious customers, which is worth its weight in gold to charities who are constantly trying to figure out ways to expand their donor base. And we're not saying let's expand your donor base exclusively based on what you do or how good you are at doing it. We're saying expand your donor base based on who or what you have access to. But then once that person wins, then you need to start educating them about why is your organization the best at solving this problem? How do you measure your impact, and why are you the organization that should be the recipient of additional funds? So there's a bit of a cultivation tool available, even when our campaigns are over, for the charity to be able to connect those dots and create a net new relationship.
Yeah, that's great. What did you do prior to Charity Buzz?
A couple of things. So I started my career in financial consulting sales. I cold called Fortune 500 finance executives, for a company that had a reputation of being very aggressive. So I had this territory that was like called on incessantly for years before me. So it was a very challenging and at that time a pretty miserable job. But looking back on it, definitely taught me a lot at an early age of like how to grab somebody's attention, how to be really strategic, and deliver a value proposition in 15 seconds or less to a
Hmm.
very, very experienced prospect. But I remember when I was at that job, I asked myself two questions one night when I was just sitting in my cubicle, not particularly feeling fulfilled. And the first one was, if I wasn't doing this job right now, would it matter? Like if I just left, would there be any impact on the people that I'm calling or the job that I'm at? The answer was no. And the second one was, what happens if this company didn't exist? It was a pretty large company, publicly traded. But if this company didn't exist, would anybody's life be negatively impacted as a result in terms of like the value that we're delivering? And the answer was no. And that was the moment I knew I had to leave and find a career that the answer to both of those questions would always be a resounding yes. So I left. I ended up working in the golf industry for a little bit. I've always been a big golf fanatic. But I ended up finding Charitybuzz in its infancy. And it was just an idea, wasn't a business. There was no plan. But I could see that this was the type of opportunity that would give me those two resounding yeses because I've had a lot of impact building this business to where it is today, but I know that what we do matters. Like again, it's we're generating incremental funds, and I've tons of stories and testimonials from our partners and our customers of how what we provided them really changed their life and made a really really positive impression, and that's the fuel I need to keep on going. And just like the title of your podcast, which is one of my favorite words, just be relentless because we're being
Yeah.
relentless for a positive purpose. And
Hmm.
that's the best way to direct that type of energy.
So how does a charitable organization become a part of your platform?
Yeah, we've got a partners page on our site. So, visit charitybuzz.com/partners. Fill out the form. We've got a really passionate and talented team that'll be in touch with you within 24 hours to really guide you through how we approach partnerships, what types of services we can provide, and what type of value we can deliver to your fundraising efforts. You can always just reach out to me. My email is ben@charitybuzz.com, and I will always connect you with a terrific member of the team. But what we've done here is we've cultivated a team of people who share the same passion that I do. That they're in this because they believe in our mission and who we help. So you can rest assured that you will be connected with a team member who's going to want to get to know you. They're going to want to get to know the work that your organization does, and then they're going to help you figure out how we can support empowering it and increasing your impact. And that's really
Hmm.
why we're all here. We just get to do it in a for-profit business model, which
Hmm.
I firmly believe we need more of in this space. Capitalism is the most powerful force to ever exist in the modern world. There's a lot of negative connotations to capitalism. Why don't we try to figure out a way to direct it for as a vehicle for good? And that's what we're doing. And I think that's a huge way where we can get more progress in the space and make a lot more of a difference.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, capitalism, after all, has probably been the one of the biggest factors to get more people out of impoverished situations than any other country or sector or whatnot, right? So yeah, this is really cool how you guys have kind of commingled the two things together. What do you think is like, because charity, that's tough, right? Because charity most of the time is dependent on either people's, like you were saying, disposable income, or even if a business is being charitable, depends on how profitable they were, right, the year prior. So what's been some of the hardest objections you've had to come over as CEO of Charity Buzz to help the platform and the business grow?
It's a great question. Unfortunately, we continuously swim against the current of this very antiquated and out of date perception of charity. You know, when you kind of peel back a lot of the layers, we treat for profit and nonprofit organizations materially different because of one or two lines in our tax code. It's the only thing that separates the two sectors.
Yep.
And it's almost as if we put nonprofit or charitable organizations at the kids' table, and then we get to treat the for profit organizations like adults. So, some of the ways that we think about charity, you even mentioned it, like the percentage of this dollar that goes to the cause. And that is a metric that determines how effective a charity is at accomplishing their mission. If you were to apply any of those same methodologies to evaluating a for-profit business of whether or not you would invest in them, you would have missed out on Facebook, Amazon, Nvidia, because they had a vision, they had a plan, and that's what you were investing in. So I think a lot of it's going to be how do we put to bed the notion of the charities of yesteryear, and how do we think about this sector as a group of organizations and talented people that are committing themselves to solving these really important problems that will make the world better. And I believe once we get there, it's less about donations. It's less about, the spare change in my pocket I give around the holidays. And it's more about I'm going to invest in this organization that is figuring out a way to better treat people living with blood cancer. And I want to be treated like an investor. I want there to be accountability on both sides. And if they can prove that they are the best at improving the lives of people living with blood cancer, then that's the only metric I care about. Like, results matter, impact matters. And I believe once we start moving more in that direction, we'll see that 2% increase. We'll see a lot more of these problems getting solved faster. And we'll see much larger emergence of for-profit companies focusing in that space, because they won't be met with that same current of people having this feeling that, a charity is, again, like where you drop your spare change or give some extra money when you have a good year. And then once you give the money, you kind of forget about it, because it's almost like you're a patron versus being an investor and being active in how are they going to deliver on their promise to me, because there's a commitment that happens when I invest money in your business, your organization. In the charitable world, it's not a return on investment in terms of cash. It's a return on investment in terms of progress against a really important mission or cause, and we need to see more of it.
Do you think, this is kind of an out there question, but do you think that there is a model where charities, non for profits, can do a better job of handling those dollars to fix problems or situations than what the government could? As an example,
Yeah.
I think the state of California spends somewhere around $20 billion a year to fix homelessness, but yet homelessness is at its highest it's ever been in California. Do you think that a charitable organization could do, or a not for profit could do a better job than the government?
Yeah, I think for these like really, really complex systemic issues that we see across the country, whether it's homelessness in some of our major metropolitan cities, or the climate change, I mean, you name it. A public-private partnership is going to be the perfect kind of recipe in order to solve them. Now, what percentage is public versus private probably depends on the state, the administration, and a whole bunch of other interests that I'm not privy to. But yeah, I do agree that you need the emergence of the private sector. In this case, we're talking about charities, to ebb and flow based on the need. So, like, another good example aside from natural disasters is think back to COVID. So when COVID
Sure.
first hit, there's this huge influx of money going to organizations focused around, like health and human services, relief, you name it. But it wasn't additional money being donated. It was money that was otherwise going to other charitable organizations. So if you think about like those first 90 days, let's say you worked at a pediatric cancer research foundation, and that was your passion, because again, something probably happened in your life that drew you to that cause. For those
Hmm.
90 days, it was as if your cause no longer mattered or was less than what was a humongous global issue that needed additional funding. What we need to figure out in those moments is how can we, between a public private partnership, increase the amount of overall support? Because we can't take it away from these other organizations. It's not like pediatric cancer went away for 90 days. It's we still have to support it, but then we have to add all this additional money on top to be able to handle these once in a generation issues. So one
Hmm.
of the ways that I believe this needs to happen is actually two related ways. Is one, there's too many charities in the US. There's 1.4 million charities. It may even be 1.5 million now. And it's
Jeez.
growing at an exponential rate because charities don't go out of business. Charities don't merge. So they just keep going. And, if they have a bad year, then maybe the board just donates a little extra money to keep the lights on. So they're not being incentivized based on, like, are you the best at doing this? Like,
Hmm.
are you the organization who has a unique solution to this problem? Everyone just starts up their own charity. So the money gets the same amount of relative money is getting distributed at a much higher clip. So everyone's getting less funding. We're not centralizing the money going to the organizations that we know are the best. And if we were able to do that, these organizations that we believe are the best would be able to create endowments, or let's just call them like war chests. So
Hmm.
the next time something really bad happens, which guess what? It's going to happen again. Like, we can count on something unexpected and unfortunate going down, that
Hmm.
instead of being reactive and saying, we need money, we need money, we need money, it's, well, we have that fund and we're going to deploy it immediately. And we don't, so like we're raising money on an annual basis to fund this chest that gets mobilized and allocated when we need it. So we're not a step behind, we're a step ahead. And if we can do that, then the private side can easily complement, if not compensate, for what may not be happening on the public side.
That's an interesting concept. I mean, kind of like an endowment fund for a college fund. It's, very, very similar, right? I think I read somewhere that like Harvard's endowment fund is so large that it could pay for every student's tuition for to go there for free just off the interest alone and never touch the principal. So
Yeah,
if
I
you could
think
do
it's like
that on a charitable,
150, 200, it's like hundreds of billions of dollars.
yeah, yeah. So if you could do that on a charity side, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just think about, natural disaster relief. Like, we know for a fact that there will be a certain number of natural disasters that occur every year. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, we're experiencing more of them, and we're experiencing a higher intensity version of them, right? Every year it's like, this is the biggest, most powerful hurricane ever. We've never seen tornadoes like this. The fire's more intense. It's just it's happening, so we have to respond to it. So we should be prepared that these are going to happen. Hopefully they don't, but they probably will, and
Hmm.
have the funding needed to be able to get the support and the aid to them, the people most vulnerable and most impacted, immediately. And instead
Hmm.
of all of the fundraising being in response, which is powerful, it's compelling to have people give right after something bad happens. But how do we turn that on its head and have that fundraising all be done in preparation and advancement to show that when the next one does hit, we're going to be there immediately, and we're going to have the resources and the funding necessary to do everything we can to lessen the damage and the impact this will have on the communities involved.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of these poor people can't even count on the insurance companies to reimburse them, right? Because the insurance companies don't even have the assets or the cash to be able to disperse. I mean, I don't even know what the total cost is up to for California right now. It's 100 billion or something like that, close to 100 billion, I think. Um, and I mean, another example is like, my dad has a condo in Florida that got hit from what was the big hurricane that was 2 years ago? Was it Ian?
Mm-hmm.
That hit the Gulf. it took them 2 years to rebuild that condo, and insurance didn't even pay out. You know, so yeah, the whole system is this. I think you're onto something here, where you could actually subsidize a lot of these problems rather than relying on government or insurance, just through some type of charitable endowment.
Yeah, I think it all need, and again, I think it's all part and parcel. I think we still have
Yeah.
to focus and try our best to make the government support the best it can be. I think we need to do our best to put pressure on insurance companies to do what they're supposed to do and support these people when they lose everything.
Hmm.
And and then we need the charity sector to be able to step up and approach these in a way they only uniquely can. And
Hmm.
it's not going to fix all of our problems, but it sure as
Sure.
heck is going to make it better than it is right now, because it's a groundhog day. It's, it's
Hmm.
like, it's what happened in California, it's what happens in Florida. Like, we know that every year Florida's going to get hit by some really, really, really bad hurricanes. We know every
Hmm.
5 years there's likely to be a wildfire in California. Like, history is a really good predictor of the future, but it
Hmm.
almost seems like we're still reactive to them. Like, we didn't expect it to happen. We know
Hmm.
exactly what's going to happen. Like, let's start planning and let's start being prepared for what we know is going to happen. And you know what? Best case scenario never happens again. Don't believe that's the case. And we can figure out different ways to, like, allocate those dollars accordingly.
Sure. What do you think are some of the charitable organizations that are run very well, very effectively?
Yeah, so a problem is there's no centralized way to measure this. The only metrics out there really are just people who analyze 990s, like the tax form that charities have to put in, and that's not the way to really be able to evaluate an organization. One organization that I do know is one of the best run in the country is the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So
Mm.
they have gone through a pretty rigorous evaluation process from this organization called Cause Reports, which applies kind of like an equity analyst based approach to analyzing charitable organization impact. And they scored the highest in the cancer vertical of the organizations they evaluated. And when you dig in a little bit, it becomes not a surprise. So for years, it was run by a CEO, Dr. Lou Gennaro, who came from the for-profit world. He was in biotech. His right hand as COO, Troy, was formerly the head of the chief store officer for Gap. So they applied a for-profit mentality to a charitable organization. And we've seen time and time again that this works. And I remember the most powerful statement they shared with me when I met with them a few years ago, which is, at the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, we resent the term nonprofit. The Leukemia Lymphoma Society is a for profit organization. It just so happens that our shareholders are people and families living with blood cancer. We come to
Mm.
work every day to maximize value for our shareholders. Like, that's it in a nutshell. It's why do we have to approach these organizations any differently than just saying we can apply these for-profit methodologies. We can accept the differences between us and our for-profit counterparts. But if we know some of these for-profit companies are just better at getting things done, innovating, solving problems than their charity counterparts, then why aren't we ripping pages out of their playbooks more often? And again, it's because
Mm.
of these two lines in our tax code. And that's how we say they're different, church and state, they shouldn't do anything similar. I'd argue it needs to be a lot more similar than different. And that's how we're going to see some real progress in the space.
That's an amazing way to look at it. That the people with the disease are the shareholders, and that's what you're trying to solve for. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I always thought it was really powerful.
And that's actually, uh, I feel like that cancer has gotten extremely. It's on the rise. Like, I hear more and more people with either some type of lymphoma or some type of leukemia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's the goal for Charity Buzz? Where are you trying to take? Do you have an ultimate goal in terms of raise or what you want to do with the platform?
Not in terms of a raise, right? We think there's a lot of green grass in front of us, and we've only got started, even though we've been around for quite some time. But the opportunity in front of us is massive, especially as we start thinking about the growth of the amount of money exchanging hands for all of these different types of activities that is always going to evolve and change over time, which presents us with a lot of opportunities for how can we insert ourselves in between, you know, $1 billion exchanging hands and be able to carve out just a small percentage of it to be able to add a relatively substantial amount of money to the overall fundraising. So we think about this in the world of events, tours. We're seeing a meteoric rise in the amount of money people will be paying to see certain performers, Broadway, Las Vegas, and then international. We see a big opportunity to get a lot deeper into the world of soccer, both to generate a larger international audience, but also to piggyback off of the growth of the sport in the States with MLS, the Apple deal, and then ultimately the World Cup coming here in 2 years. So we're very focused on continuing to deliver our mission to offer up the coolest and most unique inventory on the internet for good. And given how dynamic the space is, there's always new ways for us to be able to kind of deploy that mission and take advantage of trends that are happening and mobilize really quickly in the process.
What items do you think move the most on your site? Is it more collectibles or is it more travel experiences or experiences in general?
It's it all depends, right? Because the most successful in terms of dollars raised are going to be the once in a lifetime experiences. We're fortunate that we're the only place online that can offer up tickets to the Grammys. So we had a lot of our
Oh
customers
wow.
at the Grammys the other night. The chance to sit down and have lunch with a movie star, a Julia Roberts, a Scarlett Johansson, chance to go backstage at concerts and like meet your favorite performer, or a big vertical for us is the opportunity to meet with titans of industry. So CEOs, I would argue, have more inherent value to sit down with than anybody else.
Oh man, I
So
would
those
love
are
that.
what's so that's what's going to drive the highest per ticket item, but that appeals to a very specific consumer who can spend 5, 6, 7 figures on an experience and support a
Hmm.
good cause. So it's also important for us to have a really strong range of price points so that we can engage a much larger audience while still maintaining true to the promise we make in the marketplace.
Hmm.
But collectibles are a good example of what I mentioned earlier. I mean, the collectibles market grew to a point I don't think anybody ever imagined during and in the couple years post COVID. So that was a space we had to get into during that time because we saw again this opportunity. Lots of money's exchanging hands. How can we create our own niche within it and highlight our differentiator, which is well, when you do it through Charitybuzz, you're not only getting this really awesome stuff, you're not only working with a trusted marketplace, but with us, you get a portion of the dollars to go support terrific charitable organizations, and no one else is doing that, and that resonates with quite a large subset of customers, and those are
Hmm.
the ones that we're looking to engage with and retain.
How do you even source some of this stuff? Like, I mean, how do you source being able to have lunch with Julia Roberts or whoever?
Yeah, 15 years of the business. We've got like a really strong Rolodex. We've been fortunate that we've worked with most of the biggest names in music, film, sports. We've worked with most of the biggest names in charity. We know a lot of the agents and managers, and we've delivered. So the trust is what takes the longest time to develop because people at this level of fame are so careful about how
Hmm.
they position their own brand, and for a lot of
Hmm.
times just not worth it, right? I'll just
Hmm.
write a check rather than incur any of the risk that may be present with some sort of relationship like this. But we've proven it time and time again. So now we have the track record, we have the credibility, we have the legitimacy. I've got a great team who's spent a lot of time building these relationships. So we've really created this reputation as the go-to for these types of opportunities. So it's a lot of referrals. It's a lot of us just kind of making best use of the relationships that we've built over the years.
So then when you put together those types of experiences like a lunch with Julia Roberts, I assume that that is organized by the charity, or is it organized by you? Like how do you decide where those dollars go?
It would be, if the charity already has the existing relationship, then
Mm.
it goes through them. And if it's us having a direct relationship with someone affiliated with a particular celebrity or actor, we allow them to select the charity that they want the
Oh,
funds to go to. So it's an incentive for them to be able to use their likeness and time as an additional fundraising vehicle to be able to support causes they already believe in.
how much time do you usually get with those type of people? Is it
Be
just a
anywhere from like
lunch?
Yeah, it could be anywhere from like 30 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah,
We
that's really cool.
specify so people. A lot of times, to be honest, it goes longer than it's supposed to because you have this shared connection before the experience even takes place. That
Hmm.
the person providing the experience clearly has a deep connection to this charity, and the winner of this experience just gave a lot of money. So usually the icebreaker is the provider of the experience thanks the winner for supporting their cause. So that kind of like creates this really interesting and authentic dynamic. And
Hmm.
then, the people who make up most of our customer base are like pretty impressive and interesting individuals in their own right. So you start seeing this exchange of ideas and this like mutual respect, and both sides end up having a really good time. And there's opportunities where like those relationships have continued on beyond the experience because all they needed was a chance to kind of meet each other, and then you know things happen and
Yeah,
connections were made.
it's all about the network, right?
Yep.
Ben, this is really cool. I love what you're doing. Your platform is amazing. Where can people learn more about it or reach out to you and get involved?
Yeah, so best way to keep in touch with me is through my LinkedIn. So just reach out, connect. I share a lot more of my views and thoughts around the space through LinkedIn. As I mentioned earlier, my email is ben@charitybuzz.com. If you want to connect with me, I would just put the show title in the subject so I know exactly where you're coming from, and I'll prioritize it accordingly. And then I urge everyone to just visit charitybuzz.com, sign up for our newsletter. All you're going to get is a really cool kind of overview of all the cool stuff that launches on the site all the time. I think you'll be surprised at the breadth and the really, really unique opportunities that we offer. And it's fun to check out, and hopefully something that really appeals to you crosses your virtual desk, and you can find a way to live out one of your wildest dreams and support a really great charity in the process.
Yeah, like I said, I was scoping the site out yesterday. There is some really, really cool stuff that you've got on that site. So it's really impressive. And I definitely am going to look into, maybe doing an experience through your site. I think that'd be cool.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for having me, Barb. I appreciated the conversation, and hope to stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate you coming on.
You got it.